I'll just read off here. It's fine.
Welcome to today's School Advisor webinar. We are super excited to have you, listening in today on hopefully what we can offer some value in terms of school conferencing. So, at School Advisor, we sit in a unique position between suppliers and schools, and we know that conferencing is a big part of the industry of gaining leads, maintaining relationships. And today we want to give you some key tools or tricks of the trade to make it more effective for you and your teams to utilize conferencing well. So we know from School Advisor side, working with schools and having a product that goes into schools as well, that it's so difficult to get those meetings. Often we make jokes, Pete and I, that it's easier to get hold of a CEO of a listed company, which we do often, than to make an appointment with a headmaster that we can actually sit down and see them. It's a kind of joke in our office, but it's real and
True.
it's true. So we've learned some things we'd like to share, being involved in conferences, going to conferences, and we hope you get value out of this today. So Pete, he's probably conference king. Should we kick off?
Yes. All right. Just one thing. If you have any questions, please feel free. Just on the right of your screen, you can pop questions. We'll try answer them. But yeah, let's kick off.
Great. I think a good place to start, and it'll give you an indicator of Pete's credibility to talk on this topic, is how many conferences have you attended?
Golly, I don't know. I was looking at the registration list of people who are watching this, and I think there's a couple of people out there that are doing more than me. But for the last 11 to 12 years, I've gone to at least 5 to 8 conferences a year in the education space. So I don't know what the math is, maybe 60, 70 conferences. I've definitely been around the block. I know some of the people watching have also been, so you'll know it's that kind of annual catch up with different people. See the same faces.
Great. So today we want to break down conferences a little for you. We're going to look at a pre-conference, your build-up, your pre-conference time. What do you do? What do you need to get your teams to do to be effective on the day? We'll look at the actual event and then post-event, which we all know is probably the most essential time, is actually to button down on those leads that you've made and how to do that effectively. So let's start with pre-conference lead. What is it that they can do that they know that they're prepared well enough on the day?
Okay, I think one of the things I've seen and know is often you're trying to get a meeting with a school, and there's hard schools that you've been trying to crack. So I'll just say pre-event, it's worth sometimes actually seeing if you can pre-set up meetings so that people attend and meet with you at the event. So if you know a school's coming, especially for your conferences where you know who's going to be coming, like for example your SBMA conference, SAOU, Sabisa, Sahisa conferences, all of those conferences, you know the clients that are coming, the schools. So try pre-set up a meeting. Otherwise, they might not necessarily come to your stand. And then I think the other thing is, please make sure you prep your team's pre-events, and we get on to some things now about what to actually do at the event. But I've seen like the kind of suppliers that have had the most fun and the biggest impacts in conferences are the ones where the teams are there, they're engaged, they're excited. So if you're in the position that you have a big team, make sure you send in the right people to the team, kind of the conference. Make sure you got those kind of people that won't just sit waiting, will actually go out and look for people. So I know one of my favorite stories is I was looking to employ someone at School Advisor. So I said, come join me at a conference for a day and just get a feel of who we are. And I think it was the SBMA or the Sabisa conference. And she was sitting there and there was no one at our stand. And she stood up, walked off, went to the coffee tables where their heads were or bursars were talking and said, hi, this is who I am. Come meet me at my stand. And sure enough, they came. So you really are kind of pre-event, want to make sure you bringing people that are going to be kind of go-getters and that you're willing to kind of step out a bit because it is often awkward. So that would definitely be kind of pre-prep. Also, the other thing is stands. At the end of the day, you can have a beautiful stand and it will pull people in, but the schools want engagement with you. They want to have a relationship with you as an individual. And for them, and I think especially in the school space, trust is key. Actually, I remember attending one of our first conferences with my previous business. And we were there, it was the SAOU conference. We were selling the school communicator for the first time. And a principal came up in my best Afrikaans. I quickly changed to English and I sold him the product, and he was like, "Yes, I'm in." And I said, "Here's the form, sign." And he said, "No, I want to make sure you're still here next year." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He says, "I want to know your company's going to be around and that I can trust that you're going to be here." So at the end of the day, like, you want to send people to the events that the school will be able to identify with and trust. So I think those are some of the things I would kind of think about pre-event.
Awesome. So would you say that it would be most valuable to say have a dedicated event person that would be then your face of your brand at those events? Because if you're a company, and likely there are a lot of companies watching that do attend Sabisa, Sahisa, SBMA, SOU every year as sort of their marketing strategy or whatever, is it then advisable to dedicate a specific person or have sort of the head of the organization or whatever there?
So I think one of the best I've seen is that when the principal meets with someone in an ideal world, that is the person that's going to follow up with him and her
Okay.
or her. So I think some of the most successful exhibitors I've seen is where a large portion of their sales team is actually at the event. So literally there and then they can set up a follow-up meeting, which we'll talk about now. But
Yeah.
I do think you want the right people, and if you can afford it, having your sales team there or the person that's going to do the follow-up, because it's one thing after the events, someone else follows up, it can be hard. But if it's like, "Hey Bob, met you at the event, can I come see you?" or "Can I get someone else to come see you?" I think that does make a difference.
Great, great. That's valuable. Let's focus on the day of the event. We mentioned already that in our opinion and perspective, it's much easier if you don't just treat the event as a lead generating event, but actually a meeting generating event. So how do you do this practically? So maybe we can start with set up on the day and that, but practically, how is a company, how would it work to do that in a company? If that's your end goal is to have 5 meetings walking out.
And I think it's actually just worth, Ashton, saying that for a conference, to me, one of the biggest reasons of you there is to get FaceTime with the school and to actually get a meeting afterwards. So you want the follow-up post-event. And I think that for me is like the key thing.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, you've got a couple of minutes with a person. It should be to get a meeting afterwards. So I think one of the biggest things we've realized is every conference you always get a table. And generally what happens is you stand behind the table.
Yeah.
It is the hardest thing to demo behind a table. So also what happens is you sitting down and you've got someone like kind of peering down at you, so it's awkward. So my biggest encouragement is push the table back. If you have couches or something, sit next to the person. You want to be on their level, talking to them. Rather have what you're showing on the table, stand on the side of the table that the principal or the deputy, whoever is, and talk to them and show it. As soon as you're behind the table, it creates a barrier. It's just more awkward. So I think from a setup point of view, do everything you can do to be at their level. If it means getting cocktail tables, raises you up. If it means coming out on the other side of the table, also it makes a difference. Often you attend conferences and I've watched the principals or the deputies or the bursars, business managers, and they walk past the table and it's intimidating because behind the table is 3 people sitting. So I think come around the other side. Also, it makes it a lot easier when someone's walking past you to go, "Hey, how are you?" Grab them, make them feel a little bit at ease. And I think that's kind of, you don't want to be that dead person behind the table where if you're up and you're talking.
Yeah.
So some of my favorite conferences is we try, if we have multiple people on the table, we try put the engager out. Like the real person that's happy just to talk to everyone. And as people come past, just go, "Hey, how's it going? Come, let me show you what you do." Or Pete will show you, or Ash will show you. It's just to get their attention because some of the conferences, I have to admit, like I won't mention any names, but some of the conferences, the delegates just walk straight past you. They don't have any time for you. So you actually have to work quite hard to get their attention. So that would be definitely kind of step one. I'm just trying to think.
Maybe I can weigh in on that as well. Is that um, a lot of the conferences nowadays have passport books to sign. Okay, so what we've seen and we've experienced in ourselves is that they will come and they will just present you the passport and say, please, can you have your signature? This is your moment. We do those passbooks and in most conferences do those passbooks now to get them to come to you. And we've had many conversations around them with different suppliers and that, is it valuable? Isn't it valuable? But it does at least give you the opportunity to engage. What you do with that opportunity is important.
Yeah.
So let's talk around the passport book quickly.
Okay.
And how do you use that person that just really wants your signature? How do you catch them, Pete, and be like, without forcibly, but usher them in to come have that conversation?
Okay. So I think if there's a conference where there are lots of people coming past, some high level thoughts. One is you get those people that just want to have a good chat. And remember, if you get into a long conversation with someone, you're missing 3 or 4 other people. So I think it's hard because you want to build engagement. Also, you want to be able to sift through very quickly.
Yeah.
Is this a client? Is it a possible client? So my encouragement is determine quite quickly, is this someone that you can actually do business with? If it is, then give them the time and effort. If it's not, build a repertoire of kind of conversation closes. Like, awesome, I've explained this, thanks so much. Leave your details, I'll be in contact. Or maybe that's a lie. Maybe don't do that. Just say, thanks so much, really great spending time with you. I see someone else is here, let me go chat to them. So I think look for some safe ways to close, and also don't be scared to close the conversation. Also, the other thing is, if it is a conference where they are coming around with passport, which is basically getting stamped or proving they've been at your stand to get a prize, you want to use that 1 minute you have with them as effectively as possible. And often it might be during a break. So literally you'll have 10 people around you. So I remember with my previous business partner, a guy by the name of Leon van der Heever, he had the amazing ability, and it's something I've always tried to replicate, where he would do a demo and he would be brilliant at pulling people in that were on the outskirts. So if you are presenting to one person, sometimes what you need to do in this passport situation is take 4 of their little passports in, sign them, and while you're signing them, talk to all of them, and do kind of a group presentation, and then quite sneaky, hold that
captive.
hold that passport or passbook until you finished, and then hand it back.
Okay.
It's another nice way to close. If you hand it back too quickly, sometimes they just disappear. So it is your moment to shine. And also, ideally, what you want to try and do is read their name tag, like kind of where their badge, where they're from. This can sometimes be very awkward because sometimes it's like someone's navel, or with the ladies that will sit over here and you look like that dirty man. So if it is going to be awkward, rather just introduce yourself, say hi, what's your name and where you from. And what do you do at the school? Because then immediately you can just determine if they're a decision maker. And that's the other thing. Often you can be sitting with people that are not the decision maker. So what you want to do is talk to them and go, okay, well, who is the decision maker in the process? If I come meet with you, who else should be there? So I think those passports are fantastic, but you need to know how to sift the good from the bad pretty quickly.
Great. Okay. Well, okay. So now in terms of, we've spoken a bit about presenting and how to present well and how to engage well in that. But how do you kind of transition from that presentation to getting a meeting? Do you have your diary out? Do you ask them to open up their calendar on their phones? What is a good way to transition to, are you interested? Sifting through, finding someone that is interested. Are you interested, and can I come see you?
Yeah. So I think generally what happens is most suppliers literally have a piece of paper or an iPad where they take details, and they say someone will follow up with you, which is great. If you do that, include a cell phone number. I think if it is a teacher or if it's someone key, sometimes calling through to that gatekeeper, you're never going to get through. So having a mobile number is key. Also, very interesting what we're finding from the school side is a lot more of them will engage on WhatsApp. Not a lot of them, but some of them. So if you have a cell phone number, it makes a lot easier to engage. Uh, Calling someone is always going to be better than getting lost in the emails. But I think meeting wise, the best thing you can possibly do is say, look, are you interested in seeing me? Can I come see you? I'm going to be in your area in 2 weeks' time. Could I open up your calendar on your phone or your diary? Can I come see you? I'm going to send you a meeting request. If the time doesn't work, then we can shift it. But if you can actually physically get a meeting there and then, you golden. For a lot of the suppliers, you're going to follow up with an email or other info. Generally, what we found for schools is meeting afterwards is king. You can go in. Sometimes it's unrealistic, so you do need to be able to follow up with a call, and possibly even that meeting can be like a Google Hangout, a Skype call, a Zoom chat. So you can also set up like that, or just a follow-up telephone call. But ultimately, if you can get that next step button there and then, you win it.
Awesome. That's great advice, Peter. So we've looked at the event, the actual event. To recap, maybe it's be engaging, stand in front of your stand, and that we really found at our last event that we were at, the stands that had most of them had big screens and stuff. They had no space for a table, and so it was a bit like, oh, we'll just take the table out. Those stands are probably the most effective stands. So I really do, I just want to back up with what Pete said, is that use cocktail tables, use better demo equipment and that to demo, instead of having a table between you that actually creates a divide that you don't want there. And it makes it much easier for people to pass by as well without having to stand out in front of you and shake their hand. So that's great. Get a meeting, close it then and there. That's all really exciting. But what happens if you aren't closing and setting a meeting post event? What are some key tools that you can share on how to effectively post event follow up?
So I think my biggest thing is post event. Remember, say take an IT conference. You've got an IT manager. He's walked around. He's been to 20 companies, 30 companies, 40 companies. He's really excited. Maybe he's left his or her contact details at 10 or 15 stands. On Monday morning, when that IT manager sits down behind his or her desk, there's more than likely going to be 15 emails following up, and this we met. So I think my biggest encouragement is post event, just remember you are one of multiple emails. That's why having a cell phone number, having the meeting set up is a lot easier. And then just remember, schools generally, when it comes to emails, they have file 13. That's just where it goes across and they don't even read it, just because the quantity of emails they're getting is massive. So I think, simply put, post event, remember you are one of many people following up. Easiest way to make you stand out is by calling. So I would definitely just say, remember multiple people, what can you do? And if you have to send an email, what's going to subject line make them want to read it? Don't just do follow up, or you need something personal, something there that actually grabs their attention, that they're going, oh yeah, that's that company. Yes, I want to read this email.
Awesome. I think to add to that is that when you're having the initial conversation at the event, is possibly to find out what you could supply them that they need in the next sort of budget year. And that maybe there isn't anything, but maybe there is one thing that they know that's going to come onto their budget that they will need. So have that one thing that you can say, hi, Jimmy from X, Y, and Z school. I know that you are looking for da, 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 and could I quote, is this a good time? Could I come see you? But if there is that one key thing that they're interested in, make sure that you know what that is. And so that might be making notes at the conference to say, think of a school in our area, Rhenish Primary needs X, Y, and Z, we can supply. Then the personalized email looks like, hi, Jessica from Rhenish Primary. I know you are looking for can I quote on? Would you like to send me more information? So there's a bit more of a personal, direct touch. Sometimes there's not going to be that thing, but I think that if there is and you can gauge that in the conversation, I think it'd be much more helpful than just a general follow-up email to say, we saw you and we're on your radar now, and if you need anything. So
definitely, I think that personalized, and I think that's also quite a challenge is you're going to be at a conference, 100 people coming past. How do you take notes? How do you remember that information? And I think that is key because it does help and it does make you stand out post events when you follow up.
Great. And I think, realistically on the day, it might be that you meet 5 schools that actually are your sort of 5-star kind of leads, that you know that there is a need there that you can meet. And maybe it is to make those 5 schools then priority. The email can go out to the rest, but you pick up the phone those 5 schools, make sure you get to the right person, and push it until you get to a place where you can quote.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Then Pete, $1 million question. There are so many conferences out there now in the education space. So it is an industry trend. We do conferencing. That's sort of how we go about it. And it's a key part of most people's budget spends in marketing. So how do they do that wisely? For you, give your opinion.
All right. So literally when it comes to conferences, it's alphabet soup. SBMA, SAHISA, SABISA, SAOU. It's just there are kind of plenty out there. So I think firstly, one is there are different conferences focusing on different people. So obviously you need to match. But I'm going to mention some of my favorites just because I really value having attended their conferences as a company. So one of my top is the SBMA conference. So that is the one run by school. It's 4 school burses and it's focused on your kind of government schools and your top ones. They really get the best government schools there. And it's always a great event. It's always very well run and organized. And they also use the kind of that passbook system so everyone comes to see. And what I also love is the bursars and business managers that attend are incredibly engaging. They will come and see you. So that's a top one for me. I think at the same time, SABISA, which is the equivalent but for the private schools. Obviously, if your target market is not the bursar, and none of those 2 conferences will work for you. But I have found those ones, I find them very engaging. So on those 2. Then from a principal side, generally I found a lot of the conferences where principals attend, often the principals are there to connect with their mates who they haven't seen in a while, or they are there for the talks. So they're often not there for the exhibitors, for you and me. But I have found the SAOU conference. So bear with me with my Afrikaans. Suid-Afrikaanse Onderwyser Unie. There we go. So with the symposium, so it's the principals conference for a lot of the Afrikaans schools. And I found the principals attending there are brilliant. They will come up and speak to you. They know you are there. So that is definitely one for me I'd also recommend. Also, it's the ultimate decision maker. So no matter what your product you're selling, they can help. And on top of that, it's quite a tricky one to get into. You need to apply already in like Feb for the conference, which is in September generally. But I can really, really recommend that. And then the last one, I'm going to be completely biased, but from School Advisor side, we have created the Schoolscape conferences. And I just enjoy them because we have a lot of fun with those.
So I don't know if this is. Let's talk about this a little bit as to why we decided to do a conference. Schoolscape is unique in some ways, but it's yet another school conference. So why did we decide
to
do it?
All right. So I think what we realized is most conferences, and I've mentioned 3 amazing ones, and there are other amazing ones out there. Most conferences, what happens is, as an exhibitor, you sit around waiting for the people to attend, and you are never the focus. You are not there. So I think we were sitting at a conference and we were like, wait a second, this is fantastic. We're meeting with people, but surely there's a way we can flip this on the head. And what we said is, why don't we create a conference where the focus is the suppliers? And that is where Schoolscape was birthed. What happens if we invite schools and we say, instead of coming for education talks, there are many conferences out there that are amazing that do that. Instead, come and meet the best of the best. Come meet innovative companies. And then we've got some other secret sauce to the formula. What we realized is most education professionals, when they're out of school, they want to be in a nice environment.
Hey.
So we choose wine farms and boutique conference venues and country clubs for the events and good coffee.
Good coffee. If you've ever attended our event, Pete and I have quite a love, I would say, for coffee. And so there will always be a coffee barista at our event.
So we coffee snobs. But yeah, so I think that's why it started. And what's interesting is I think a lot of our suppliers have really enjoyed it, but a lot of the schools have valued the ability to actually just come and meet with suppliers and they know they are there. So that's why it was started. I know we've got an IT one running in October, and then we've got our main events, which are next year, which is our premier event, which happens in Feb and March.
Awesome. I think what I really also love about the Schoolscape event, and then saying this, is that we have seen that the schools will come with specific needs. So they'll look at their budget for the year. I had a call yesterday that said, I need companies. She phoned me thinking I was Annika, which is great, it's fine. And so Annika runs our quotes, and she said, well, I need companies for like 8 different things. I saw all of them at your last event. Can you send me their details? And so she had looked at her budget and decided, well, I've actually seen these companies. They're credible, they're great. I need to know who they are, and we could just direct her to our website where all of the companies were. But that the schools actually love it, that they can come to one place, and they plan for it like this, to come to one place with their budgets. I've literally seen someone walk in with her list before, and they know, like Pete said, they're there to find credible companies. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey in that, and now finally the schools are getting to know that it's not just a nice event to attend. They can actually come with their budget needs, and that there will be companies there that are credible, rated. We love our companies that we're building a community, I feel like, of companies that we really enjoy working with, that we know are going to exceed the school's expectations. So yeah, and we slowly, I feel like the schools are getting to know that and understand that they actually can come and solve all their procurement needs at one event, and they're there to see you.
And then also, if you've been listening to this, hopefully if you come to our events, some of these tips will help you, make you more engaging, which I think at the end of the day actually makes it more exciting for the schools that are there. We can create environments that are just really exciting for them to be in.
Yeah, cool. How to make a burst excited.
Yes.
That'll be our job. Awesome. Right. Great. Well, I think that comes to the end of it, but let's check if there are any questions.
If there are any questions, please pop them. Otherwise, if we don't get any questions, if you do have, just pop us an email. Happy to help. If you would like to find out more about Schoolscape, literally go to schoolscape.co.za. And if you would like to find out about any of the other conferences I mentioned, I can give you the contact details. They're all ones I can recommend. And then, just a reminder, if you are in the IT space, Schoolscape IT Cape Town happening.
It'll be very exciting.
So fall into that. Otherwise, we can see you at our events next year. And then also just one last reminder, part of what we want to do as School Advisor is really help our platinum kind of companies, those companies that are listed, which most of you are. We really want to help give tools to you. So we're going to create quite a few more webinars like this. And you can also then go through the historical list of webinars and kind of use it to help you be more effective in reaching schools.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Have a lovely day further.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye. This is always the awkward moment when it doesn't end. Still not ending. We are still on. We're going to end it soon.
Should we just exit left?
We'll exit left.